5, 4, 3. Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. Welcome to my Saturday morning live stream. Today is Saturday, August 23rd, 2025, and I'm reporting live from my house. Good to see each and every one of you on board this morning. Had a little audio difficulty yesterday, so if you can just put a comment letting me know if we're A-OK on the audio, I would appreciate that. Today is going to be a little special because today is the first football game of the year for my Iowa State Cyclones. They're playing in Dublin, Ireland. No, I did not fly over there. So we need to keep this live stream kind of short because they kick off at 11 o'clock Central Time in an hour and a half from now. So we still have a Saturday morning live. I just need to keep it to about 65% of its normal length. I'm kind of like the Capital One Venture X this morning. I offer most of what you need, but only 2/3 of the normal price, something like that. TM Cowling noticed I got a haircut, and I did. Got it cut on Wednesday at my cash-only barber, and we're good on audio according to Tom and several other people. So thank you, everyone who confirmed the audio. Let's back up to the very beginning and see who's on board. Anthony Ventures here. Welcome aboard, Anthony. Dong Kim. Tom Graber gets the ball rolling by donating one channel membership. Celebrate. Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate that. Ron Byrne is here while working on his budget. And God Facade, been a lurker for a while. I enjoy your content. Thank you, God Facade. Appreciate that. Got Brady, Dad on a Mission, Jazz Fan 27, Too Easy, TM Cowling, Catch 631, MR, D Green, Nuracan. Good morning from Harry Reid Airport in Las Vegas. Hope you're doing okay there in Vegas. And Ron also noticed my haircut. Texas, you ready? Question mark. $1.99. Not sure what the Texas is referencing, but I appreciate the super chat. Thank you for the donation, Ian. Celebrate. Awesome. Thank you so much. Mike from LA is here. Mike Newland is here. Good morning. Feels like a great day to do a FHR stay. Is that where you're at, Mike? Awesome. Are you in that Asian pagoda right there in your thumbnail? Vincent Pascal is here and celebrates 12 months of channel membership. Whoa, that deserves a celebrate. Thank you so much. Dimitri G, Jay Spain, Frugal Dad. A shorter live today, so it will be an hour at most. Maybe 90 minutes at most. Caterpillar Rep and Keith Hawthorne reporting in, as per usual, from Lakeland, Florida. I see 42 people on board. If you've not yet done so, please click the thumbs up button. More people will come join us when you click the thumbs up button, and I will sure appreciate it. But without further delay, let's go ahead and jump on board, get going with our Dugroz data points. Dugroz data points are just any sort of interesting thing around the world of points, miles, cash back, etc. that has caught my attention. And that's a good one, but don't want to start with that one. Let's go to this one instead. I captured this from a YouTube video, and I sincerely apologize. I don't remember which YouTube video I screenshotted this on. Oh, actually I do. There's a clue right down here in the corner. It's Ben Hedges, also known as the Credit Shifu. And in his, so hat tip to him, in his video, he referenced a Reddit channel. Somebody said, I'm seeing more data points that Chase is now officially enforcing the lifetime language for getting a Sapphire bonus as of 8/12. So it'll be harder and uncertain to downgrade after 48 months to get a new sub. The terms say new card member bonus may not be available if you currently have other personal Sapphire cards open, previously held this card, or received a new card member bonus for this card. So maybe you won't get the pop-up, but maybe you will. We'll also consider the number of cards you've opened and closed, as well as other factors, says this person. Find flights for me and Mad Skills 3. I did also throw out my own data point on a Doctor of Credit article discussing this. And I basically said, well, my wife still got approved for a CSP, and she had had it before and had downgraded. It had been just over 48 months. And somebody wanted to know the exact day. And I said, I don't remember, but it was somewhere between August 4th and 7th. And then the follow-up question was, doesn't count. Thanks for the data point. And I think what this person effectively meant is The Reddit rumor was that change went into effect on the 12th of this month. So we just barely snuck in. I remember last week or maybe the week before, somebody's like, is that your last hurrah for a sign-up bonus with Chase? Unfortunately, it's looking like it might be our last hurrah for a sign-up bonus with Chase. Don't know for sure, but kind of seems like that's where things are headed. Got to adjust my camera now that my posture's much worse. Catching up on the comments here. Cesar Joel has joined in. Hey, mi hermano, how you doing? Rupert Pond says, I was gifted a membership last week. I will definitely sign up when it's time. Thanks, Rupert. I appreciate that. I really like your take on different types of travel as your life changes. I travel with family now. Likewise. And hey, look, Mike Newland coming in strong with 10 Dugroz Reports memberships. Thank you so much, Mike. Celebrate. I sincerely appreciate that. We got a little crookedness with my webcam going on. I was working on recording a video yesterday, so if I mussed it up, I apologize. Source King says, I've heard about, I'm about to head out to Chicago O'Hare and fly out and work remotely from beautiful Sweden for a couple of weeks. Well, I'm slightly jealous, Source King. Hope you enjoy returning to the land of your ancestry. Celebrate. Minor celebration there, just because I like Sweden. Green Knight says, good morning, Doug and company. And MR says, hopefully you're flying out of Terminal 5 at O'Hare. I don't know exactly what that's referencing, but if I were to guess, Chicago O'Hare is the airport with a dearth of lounges. In fact, I believe it only has one Priority Pass lounge that's in an inconvenient location and has oft been referred to as the worst Priority Pass lounge. Can't remember what it's called. Too Easy says, let's see if we start getting no lifetime language links for Chase. Laughy face. Yeah, that seems like they're just imitating Amex and every other way. Why not that one? Bear with me while I blow my nose here, folks. 56 people on board. Please keep on clicking thumbs up. Next, Dugroz data point here. Have you ever used the Fetch app? This is an app where you scan receipts as you get them. Sometimes you can do it digitally, but I find that to be a little clunky, so I mostly do physical receipts, and it gives you a few token points every time you do it. I think 25 is the minimum. Apparently, I'd gotten up to 30,000 some Fetch points, so I cashed out. It was around 28,000 for a $25 Amazon gift card, so it's not even 1/10 of a cent per point. It's just slightly less than that. What I found odd, I was going to ask, has anybody ever done this? And it takes a long time. So like I want to redeem this, and it said it'll be ready in a few days. And it ended up taking like 3 full business days. And then I think on the start of the 4th day, it showed on my app and I was able to redeem it. But it would be really easy to forget because I got an email when I put in the order. I didn't get an email. I didn't get a notification or anything when it was ready to go. But I was cleaning out my email. I was like, oh, yeah, that Fetch thing from 5 or 6 days ago. So, and it worked fine. It loaded in my Amazon account. But just an FYI with Fetch, if you do cash out a reward, don't forget to come back later and actually redeem it in 4 or 5 business days. MR says Terminal 5 is the international terminal, which implies a direct flight. And yes, the infamous Swissport Lounge is also in Terminal 5. That's it, Swissport, thank you. Which has nothing to do with Swiss Airlines as far as I know. It's more like, I don't know, they manufacture Swiss Army knives and lounges. David Williams says, got the email this morning from Schwab. They will match most brokerage balances. Interesting. And apparently it's quoting from Schwab. In appreciation for your business, I'm pleased to confirm that Schwab will deposit $2,000 into your account ending in this number in approximately 45 days based on your commitment to maintain $500,000. Interesting. Thank you, David. That's good to know. So like, let's say there was a brokerage bonus over at US Bank. You could go to Schwab and say, hey, you know, I could move my money over there and get this, but will you match it if I promise to stay loyal? That's actually good to know. Mike Newland asks, what kind of gift cards do they offer at Fetch? I don't remember, except for Amazon. I think I saw hotels.com, but I decided to just take the easy path. In our household, Amazon.com gift cards are basically legal tender. Source King confirms he is flying from Terminal 5. I got access to the SAS lounge, which is a little better. Are you flying on SAS? Ian says, speaking of Swiss, their new first class lounge looks amazing, maybe the best. Where's that located? Is it in Switzerland or somewhere here in the States? Let's see. What are some cities that I know of in Switzerland? Well, there's Zurich. And there's one that's like right out the France-Germany Zurich tri-point, and I can't think of it. So, boy, I failed. I only thought of one city. Next, Dugroz data point. This is a personal data point from the folks at Capital One Travel. So I mentioned last week, or maybe it was the week before, when I booked a repositioning flight through Wells Fargo using mostly points, but just a little bit, like $8 or $9 of cash, I was able to use my Chase CSR to pay the taxes and fees equivalent in the Wells Fargo portal. So that was kind of cool. I made a booking for a rental car. It was kind of a dummy booking. It was part of my follow-up on my last live stream a week ago today about rental cars, where I wanted to actually go through with the booking to see what happened. And the thing that I'm pointing out here is you can only pay with a Capital One card. See, it gives me my option, my Venture X, my Venture One, which are my only two Capital One cards. So apparently if you're booking travel through the Capital One portal, even if you're doing partial cash, partial points, you don't have the option to use a third-party card. It has to be a Capital One card. I did actually end up keeping the rental cards for second or third weekend in October in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have this kind of idea. I don't think it's going to work out. Someday, Anthony Venture and I want to do what's called Let's Go on an Adventuraz. Get it? Venture, Dugroz, combined, Venturaz, to Wheeling, West Virginia, which is the home of the Suspension Bridge, a really good restaurant called TJ Sports Bar, as well as the best Hampton Inn in the flippin' country, literally, like voted 5 out of the last 7 years. They've got 2 hot tubs. So let's all meet up at the Hampton Inn of Wheeling, West Virginia is my thought. So I guess I'm keeping the door open slightly, but I'm having some issues with getting time off at work this year, so it probably won't happen. But bottom line, yes, if you're booking through the Capital One portal, you have to use a Capital One card. Ian says, no, first class, not lounge. Oops, my bad. Their new first class looks amazing. Okay. It's a new A350. Looks amazing and quite big. Thank you for clarifying that. Another Capital One data point here, and maybe someone can help me out. I got this on my last statement from Capital One, rewards adjustment plus 80 miles. I have no idea what that's from. I don't remember anything that would give me extra rewards. It's not from that CVS reward or anything like that. So if anybody has a clue, like why Capital One just randomly gave me 80 miles, or if you've seen a rewards adjustment before that you have a hard time explaining, let me know. Maybe it'll help me out. Next data point, this is hat tip to frequent miler. The Chase Sapphire Reserve has a new welcome offer. This one's 125,000 points. Specifically, 125,000 ultimate reward points after spending $6,000 in the first 3 months. Their prior sign-up bonus when they first launched was 100,000 points and a $500 one-time use portal coupon. So I suppose you could argue which one's better. I think most of us in the points and miles community would rather have 25,000 worth of points rather than a $500 coupon. If you can average 2 cents per point, then you've broken even. If you average anything greater than 2 cents per point, then you've come out ahead. So that's kind of compelling. And I thought for a second, maybe I'm regretting having my wife sign up for a CSP instead of a CSR. But then I remembered the $800 annual fee. And I'm like, no, I did the right thing going with the CSP. But if you're attracted to the brand new CSR, by all means, there's quite a good option. Yeah, Ian's going to send me a direct link for the new layout of the first class on Swiss. And MR says, SAS is part of SkyTeam now. So if you have SkyTeam status, you should be able to get in the Delta Lounge. Good to know. I don't have any airline status, but maybe Source King does. Move along here. Next, Dugroz data point. American Express, also, this is a hat tip to Doctor of Credit. American Express adds 400 hotels across fine hotels and resorts / the hotel collection. And this is especially compelling because the rumor is that the uh, Platinum card is going to get a workover, a refresh, that's going to give 2 FHR credits per year, $300 in the first semester, $300 in the second semester. So that would really help out. And I think that is a step in the right direction. I probably wouldn't hold the card beyond year one because FHRs aren't my type of hotel for the most part, and I would have to travel in a different style to use it in a predictable manner. But for those for whom they do love it, like the Anthony Ventures of the world, that would be a positive change. And certainly, whether or not the Platinum refreshes, simply having more options is definitely a positive change. Mojo's on board. Good morning. Good morning to you. New again says, what's up? Of course, I jump on when talking about Chase CSR. Bruh. Not a fan? Let's keep on going here. I've got a football game in an hour and 15 minutes, so don't want to drag things out. This is also hot tip from Frequent Miler. I see Tim Steinke's name down here. The AA Advantage Aviator Red MasterCard is offering 70,000 miles after one purchase. This is one where you have to find a link, but I'm sure Frequent Miler has a link if you want to go support them or whoever. The publicly, hold on, I had a weird hiccup breathe-in thing. That was weird. Better check my pulse here on my Fitbit. 75 beats per minute, not too bad for talking a lot. The publicly available offer is 50,000 points with the annual fee waived in year one. So would you rather have no annual fee, 50,000 points, or a roughly $100 annual fee for an extra 20,000 points, which is kind of like buying AA miles at a half cent each? I think most of us would take that if we had the opportunity to buy AA miles at a half cent each. The prevailing wisdom or common thought process seems to be, this is the Barclays card, that this will be closed to new applicants as of the end of this quarter, so in a little over a month, late September. And the prevailing wisdom is that Citi is going to do all they can to buy that back book of business. So I'm having this thought process that maybe I should get it, even though it would be blowing a 524 slot, because how much does 524 matter nowadays? I don't really know. I do still want to get a personal Marriott card, like the Boundless or something along those lines, so I can take my path to the Ritz-Carlton in a little over a year. In the fall, I want to start that process. But I'm also more in love with Citi now. I'm kind of making up with them, but they don't always want to issue me new cards. They denied me for the double cash a little over a year ago, or around a year ago. So this could be a way to backdoor into Citi with an extra card. For example, if I couldn't get a double cash, maybe I could get this card, they buy it out, wait a year, and then product change it. Who knows if they'll allow that kind of product change in the future, but maybe. Mojo is wishing everyone well. QC Man 2000 aboard says Farmageddon. Yep, that's right. So when Iowa State plays Kansas State in college football, they call it Farmageddon because we're both agricultural schools. There's your explanation, QC Man. The Aviator 70K link is now dead, says Mike from Los Angeles. I apologize. I gather these screenshots throughout the week, and I don't always follow up. I wish I was Frequent Miler and did this full time, but I have a job, I have a family. So my data is sometimes as much as 6 days out of date, and I apologize for that. So maybe just the 50K. Mike Newland says they're killing AA system on the way out the door, Barclays, that is. Killing the system or just flooding the market with points, which might lead to a devaluation. Who knows? Yes, referring to my football game at 11 o'clock Central Time. New again says, if that was true, Barclay would let me get more AA Reds despite receiving subs in the spring. There might be something contractual about that with American Airlines. Catch 631 says, I used that 70K link the other day and I'm in review. The first Barclays application, but I am and was at 524 until September 1st, just a data point. So you may or may not qualify for it, depending on a variety of factors. Got some nose blowing here. In the meantime, talk amongst yourselves. What's your favorite color of football helmet? And keep on clicking thumbs up. I would appreciate it. Heather Moots says, good morning, Doe. Mr. Moots here. It's striking my curiosity. I don't see the 2 Union Jack flags in the background. You only put them up for the 4th of July. I was in the UK on the 4th of July. I was also in the Netherlands. I was also in Austria. So it's not my normal pattern. No, I apologize. I just was too lazy to take them down. And I did go back after I met you for the first time and got your first substantial donation and realized Herr, Herr, means Mr. So Mr. Muntz. Apologize for not picking up on that earlier. Mike likes orange and black football helmets. Checks out with the previous avatar. Allie says, hi, back home post-travels. Ooh, where'd you go, Allie? Glad to see you back here. Thanks for being on board. I'm now going to bigginize my screen, and I'm going to move on to the next Dugroz data points. This one is courtesy of Mike Newland, who we just saw moments ago. He sent me this earlier in the week, and he noticed on his desktop login for American Express that they are now offering a sign-up bonus tracker. And data points seem to suggest, at least, that this is available on MR earning cards. It may or may not be available on co-branded cards. At the top of the screen, it looks to me like that is a Blue Business Plus, most likely. Well, it's either Blue Business Plus or Blue Business Cash, and it says MR points. So it'd have to be a BBP. So it's nice that it tells how long he has and how much spend he has to go. So thank you for sharing that, Mike. I sincerely appreciate it. And thank you, Amex, for making lives of customers easier. D Green likes red and black go pack. I see a picture of a wolf. Wolf pack. Is that? It's either New Mexico or North Carolina State. Boy, I apologize if I'm wrong. I know if people screwed up my college team, I'd be highly offended. Catch 631 says, not color, but I want Iowa State to beat Kansas State. Me too. New Again says, still looking forward to NFL season. Another underperforming John Harb's performance. New Again says, incoming. Dad on a Mission says, silver and Honolulu blue. Go Detroit Lions. Ali was in Tokyo, Cairns, Sydney, Honolulu. Oh, also Honolulu. Billings and Tucson. It's complicated. Where is Cairns? Cairns. That sounds like it'd be in like Northern Ireland or Scotland or Republic of Ireland or something like that. But I'm just guessing. I could be wrong. Got it. NC State. All right. About time for the bonus tracker, says QC Man. Next, we have this little tidbit courtesy of the Frequent Miler. Atlas's Atmos Summit Visa is live. Here are the details. So the Atlas Summit Visa, which is their premium card, launched with the expected 100K bonus. And it was pretty much the same as expected. The kind of big earnings thing is you get 3x on foreign transactions or foreign purchases with no FTF. So that's kind of cool. If you're someone like Stephen Pepper, who is eligible for US-based credit cards, but you live in the United Kingdom, you get 3x on pretty much everything. So that'd be kind of cool. A lot of talk going around about that new Atmos program. The new cards, it seems generally positive, except for the card design. People think it's ugly, but hey, who cares how ugly the card is if the program and the card itself are good at what they do. I won't go into details on that because there's so many other places you can find it, but just wanted to acknowledge that I was certainly aware of it. Ron Burns says University of Nevada and NC State are the different Wolf teams, I think is what he's getting at. New Mexico's the Lobos or New Mexico State, one of the two. Interestingly, my kids have NCAA Football 2004, the video game for the GameCube. It was mine originally, but they kind of took it over. And if you play as New Mexico and score a touchdown, there's a glitch in the game where when the cannon goes off, the cannon is invisible, which is kind of funny. Jake T asked this question: would applying for Merit Card and Aviator Red on the same day work since they pull from different bureaus? Write that down. Write that down. I'm going to screenshot that, Jake. Thank you for the suggestion. I will give it consideration. Yep, I knew what you meant, Ron. Cairn was in Australia, Great Barrier Reef, not in anywhere near Ireland. Oops. QC Man says, green and white for my hapless New York Jets. We have 2 Iowa State running backs this year, Brees and Kane. Kane, I always thought it was Nwangu, but when he went to the Vikings, they said Wongwu, so maybe we've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time. Xavier comes in strong and drops a $50 minus a penny super chat. Appreciate what you do. Celebrate. Thank you, Xavier. Mr. 1099. Wow, I really appreciate that. Now's a great time to mention that if you drop a super chat, super sticker, donate a channel membership, that helps out my channel. 80% of what I'd get is reinvested into the channel. And technology, weird trip ideas, TBD. I need a new desk. That's one of the things. I need to pay for the expensive version of StreamYard, so I don't have to have this logo in the corner, and I can make my screen wider. Also, I will take 20% as family budget because this is a lot like a part-time job. Ian wants to know where Ali stayed and some other details. So I'll let you discuss that on the side. Moving on to my third to last Dugroz data point. This is kind of a difficult one to explain here because it just looks like a paper statement, because it is. By the way, we have 69 people on board, so please keep on clicking thumbs up here. This is a paper statement from Wells Fargo. So I've got my unfortunate Golden Ponies card, which has no actual ponies on it anymore. But I want to keep that card current because I don't normally spend on it. So when I have a sock drawer card, my mission is to go out once every 6 months and put some spend on it. I usually do it around 4th of July and beginning of the year, New Year's. I was a little behind schedule. On this date, let me get back over there. August 15th, I made a purchase at a Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh, which is a gas station, for $1.99. I think it was a warm cookie, which was delicious. And then my account statement ended up being 0 when it closed 3 days later on the 18th. So I had heard about this, but never actually done it with Wells Fargo. Apparently, if you have a balance on your statement close date of less than $2, they will just make an adjustment, and basically you don't have to pay anything. So I got that cookie at Hy-Vee for free. So I'm not one of those people that's going to religiously make sure I spend $1.99 every month, but it does tempt me to keep that card in my car and just stop and get a cookie at Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh every month, since I know it comes out to less than $2. Thanks, Wells Fargo. I appreciate that. Let's see. New Again says, what Hyatt did to Mr. and Mrs. Smith is shameful. CSR level shameful. I agree. Some comments between Allie and Ian. And doesn't bother me. I've got the prop. I love the property. It's got plenty of points. 475,000 points for 2 nights at longitude 131. Interesting. It just sounds expensive. I don't even know where it is, but it sounds expensive. But good on you, Ian. Way to burn your points. Next data point here. So you'll remember in the saga of my US Bank Altitude Reserve and wanting to blow through my points before they ruin it, I was going to figure out a way to use all of my points with real-time rewards sooner rather than later. Sooner has arrived, and it is done. So I got the text to say, you have 23,500 points. Would you like to redeem 23,019? And I, in fact, said, yes, redeem those, and it worked. I thought that was pretty close. I got within 500 points, so less than $500 in residual penny point value. And here is my Altitude Reserve current rewards amount showing that I have less than 500 points. So I have now used those up. If you'd like to know how I use them up, I'm going to save that for the members only section of my channel. Are you interested in becoming a channel member? Feel free to join as a Dugroz diehard. It's my one and only one channel membership level. It's $3 a month, and you can cancel anytime. You'll have over 52 members only videos that you can go through. You can binge if you want. If you join as a Dugroz diehard, just click the join button on any video. While the live is going, there'll be a little green box, and we can all have a celebration together. So I'm pretty proud of myself for basically putting my US bar into sock drawer mode. We're going to wait for December, see who the transfer partners are, and if that makes me want to keep those 481 points or not. Ron says monthly cookie run. Yuri G tested real-time rewards recently. Google Voice stopped working, but regular cell phone number did work. Okay, good to know. I have Google Voice. I just keep it as a backup plan, although I almost never use it. So I'm constantly getting those messages that are like, hey, at once a quarter, I get an email that's like, if you don't use your Google Voice soon, it's going to expire. I'm like, okay, I'll make one phone call and keep it alive. I would challenge anyone to do a super chat for $1.49 or a super sticker. I'll keep that option open. I'm still giving out 1,000 Dugroz points to anybody who drops exactly $1.49. Not a penny more, not a penny less. All right, I got to blow my nose, then we'll transition into the theme of the day. While I'm transitioning to the theme of the day here, Mike Newland dropped an additional 10 Dugroz Reports memberships. He's now up to 20. That's just as good as a $60 super chat. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, Mike. Sincerely appreciate it. Matt Clausen has arrived, big-time supporter of the channel and fellow content creator. Complaints that Mr. and Mrs. Smith is dynamic and Mr. and Mrs. Smith is less beholden to the Hyatt rules. That was responding to somebody else asking about how Mr. and Mrs. Smith was nerfed. FC drops a super sticker for $4.99. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you, FC. Appreciate the generosity of you guys. And hey, it looks like LN.330 got a membership and stops by to thank. Hey, I like that avatar, even though I don't know what it is. It's a bridge over a highway, maybe? Thank you. Yuri says, I'm still waiting for US Bank transfer partners, and maybe they will allow to pool points from the Autograph Go and Autograph Connect. This will be a good trifecta. Not holding my breath, but I am also waiting to see. Nuracan says, I'm holding out to see the transfer partners first on my US bar before I decide what to do with my 70K points. Understandable. Certainly, we're both kind of gambling. I'm taking the more conservative gamble that I'm going to be disappointed. You're taking the more optimistic gamble that you will be excited, and there's not a right or wrong answer. Chad Pennycuff has arrived. Howdy. Thank you for your support, Chad. Yuri G said, what happened with Miss M&M, like Mr. and Mrs.? I think that was pretty much explained, but if you're thinking of something else, let me know. Source King says, I got my sock drawer cards connected to my commuter parking lot app, so I rotate the $179 charge between the cards. Oh, hey, that's kind of a good idea there. But I like my free cookie idea. I'm just going back through the super chats, the super stickers, and donations to make sure I didn't miss anyone, and I don't believe I did. QC Man asked Chad, are you anticipating closing your US bar? All right, we're going to go ahead and transition into the theme of the day now. Today's theme of the day is Citi versus the Fairwinds Credit Union for daily spend. So let me pull up that screen here. And there it is. And we're going to go into full screen mode with that guy. One more nose blow, then we'll dive. 5, 4, 3. Today's theme of the day, Citi versus the Fairwinds Credit Union for daily spend. There's a champion, Citi. There's a contender, Fairwinds. Bum 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 bum. If you know what that music's from, bonus points to you. So who's that boxer in the corner? He doesn't look like he's going to win any matches, but let's take a look at these guys. Last time on Dugroz Reports Live, my prior live stream, I kind of worked my way to some sort of new potential setup for everyday spend. And that kind of looked like this. So across that top row there, there's 4 different cash back earning cards. And I'm going to make a chart in just a moment. They will be represented in blue, kind of that light blue, or is that chartreuse or cyan? And then there's Wyndham points, which is, of course, where the Wyndham Earner business credit card comes in. And then there's Citi points, which will be represented in green for the rest of our presentation today. You'll see the Citi Strata Premier in the bottom right, and then kind of tucked inside of him is the Citi Double Cash. I don't actually have a Citi Double Cash, but this is a hypothetical future setup for me that would be heavy on Citi with backups from Cashback and Wyndham. But of course, you all watch all of my live streams every single week, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're watching this after the fact, though, I do go live almost every Saturday morning at 9:30 Central Time, which would be 10:30 a.m. East Coast time, if you're wondering. Next screen, please. So here's my proposed budget settling on a Citi focus that I came up with. I haven't implemented this yet, and I'll explain why I haven't quite yet, but here's where things look like they're heading. So I will spend $5,000 a year on dining, and that's going to go on my PayPal debit card, which gives 5% cash back and earns me $250 of cash back per year. Amazon, $4,000 a year at 5% on the Chase Amazon Prime Visa. Don't have that yet, but in this hypothetical setup, I would. Well, probably my wife, Player 2, would, and that would yield $200 a year of cash back. I spend or budget $4,000 a year at gas stations. Remember, gas stations isn't just gasoline. There's also Casey's Pizza. That earns 8x on my Wyndham Earner business card, getting me 32,000 Wyndham points a year, enough for more than 2 nights a year in a 1-bedroom Vacasa cabin. Walmart, we spend a lot of our money at Walmart. In fact, it is the single merchant that we use the most. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of good ways to earn points at Walmart because they don't code as grocery. There are a few funny things you can do, like go to CVS and buy a Walmart gift card. But for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to put all that on my double cash, which I will hypothetically have, and that'll net 20,000 Citi points. Groceries, real grocery stores like Fairway, Hy-Vee, Albertsons, that kind of stuff. $3,000 a year, not as much because most of our groceries come from Walmart. 3x on the Citi Strata Premier, 9,000 Citi points. I have the Citi Strata right now. It'd be very easy to product change. Telecom, this would be cell phone bill if you have a landline, which I don't, cable, internet, that kind of thing. All of that's going on the Chase Inc. Business Cash and earning 5x, which I'm going to, in this world, just use as cash, $100, or I could take 10,000 Chase points, but let's just say $100. Everything else is going to be picked up by my Citi Double Cash, and that's about $25,000 a year at 2x, so that's 50,000 Citi thank you points. This is the second to last thing. There's also utilities at 5% cash back using the US Bank Cash Plus, and that nets me $200 of cash back every year. That's a budget of $57,000 a year. I feel like for somebody that dedicates themselves to putting as much as you can without paying fees on the transaction through credit cards, $57,000 is a lot for an average Joe. I'll put it that way. Now, I need to catch up on some comments here before I go too much farther. Mike from LA correctly identified Punch Out or Mike Tyson's Punch Out, depending on which version you have, as that little song that I went over. It was actually based on a song from like the 1950s called the Look Smart March, which was sponsored by Gillette on actual boxing coverage. If I've got any real old timers on board, let me know if you remember that version. Matt says, I'm surprised boxer Dugroz has gloves. Oh, you thought I'd be more of a bare knuckle fighter? I thought about it. Chad Pettycuff, in response to someone's question on the US Bank Altitude Reserve, says, the deal killer for me is the portal requirement. 3x transferable mobile wallet may not be bad. We have to see. It's not looking good. Points with Philip was just gifted a membership. Thanks, Newland. Awesome. Glad that you were able to pick that up. And thank you again to Mike for your generosity. JC says, good morning, Dugroz. And Yuri G says, I don't recommend having the double cash. I instead recommend converting it to a Citi custom cash. You might not have been on board last week, Yuri. I know that you're a huge fan of custom caches, but I do have 2 custom caches. They are set aside for special projects. like buying a lawnmower, buying a gift card that I'm going to use in a strategic manner. We'll just call that strategery. So I have 2 custom caches, but they don't really factor into the budgeted spend. QC Man gifted 1 Dugroz Reports membership, and JC just became a new member. Oh, I forgot to do this. QC Man gifted 1 Dugroz Reports membership. Celebrate. Thank you, QC Man. I really appreciate that. JC became a new member. Celebrate. See, I promised you would have a celebration if you join as a member. I appreciate that. Both are just as good to me as a $3 gift, so thank you to both of you. Nuracan drops $4.99. Celebrate. Thank you, Nuracan. I appreciate your generosity. And Nuracan says, break is over. Back to work. I'll catch the live later. No problem. Ian M, not isn't M. Shangri-La for location and great service. Hilton for lounge. I have an Aspire card and automatic diamond status. Very good. I like Hilton's. New Again says to Yuri G, Altitude Connect is meh. You also assume US Bank travel partners and programs will be good. Huge assumption. Besides, I'm good on those categories. I can see it both ways. But none of us know for sure. We're all just waiting around. Texas Dowd drops $1.99. Celebrate. Howdy, I'm late. I was grocery shopping for football. I can't fault that. I'm actually sending one of my sons out to buy us some Taco John's. There's a whole lot of Mexican going on. So we have that for kickoff. You take the potato olay, you dip it in the cheese sauce, and it's about the best thing in the whole world. The Rewards Master's glad to be here. Good to see you. RM. Mike from LA says, anyone done the math on double cash versus custom cash if you have the Citi Premier, not Elite? Seems better to have the double cash. Depends on how you're using it. Yuri says, Walmart gives 3x on Chase co-branded cards such as Aeroplan, Bonvoy, etc. I hear you. I've actually used my Aeroplan card. What I found out is that Aeroplan in person at Walmart, yes, codes as grocery. But if you do online or curbside pickup with Walmart, it does not code as grocery. It only earns 1x. Yuri saying New Again talking to Yuri, and JC is thanking the Rewards Master for a tip about buying DoorDash gift cards during city nights for 6S on the Strata Elite. Oh, you can buy e-gift cards on DoorDash. I actually saw someone mention that last night on Anthony Venture's live stream, and I have to think that over more. So that won't come into play on my topic today, but that is good to know. So thank you for your original statement, Rewards Master. Thank you to JC for bringing it to my attention now. And thank you to random person who said that on Venture's live stream last night. 75 people on board. This may not be the most popular topic ever, so I doubt we're going to clear 100, but let's at least clear 85. Come on, folks. Where's John R. when I need him? This many people are on board, but only this many have clicked thumbs up. QC Man says to Chad, the portal requirement is the worst part. I renew again before the refresh one last time, but next year isn't looking good. They're talking about the altitude reserve. I think losing 1.5 on real-time rewards is the worst part, but we will find out. And Herr Muntz, oh my word, clear out my eyeballs here, folks. I want to make sure I'm looking at this correctly. I thought that said 5 memberships, but that says 50 Dugroz Reports memberships. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Wow, that's the most memberships I've ever had donated in one click. I think maybe one time Mike Newland donated more total during the live stream, but in terms of one big grouping, that calls for a stand-up celebration. Celebrate. Thank you so much, Mr. Muntz. I really appreciate that. Let's see, 50 times 3. That's the equivalent of donating $150. Yowzers, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mr. Moots. I'm glad to have you as a new channel member. Yuri G says, depends on how much you spend the double cash, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we know most of that. I'll let you guys talk it over. I am going to have to be a little diplomatic on which comments I read out loud, so please don't take it personally if I don't get to yours because football. Mike says, Rewards Master has been prolific with videos and lives lately, all gold. I love how different Rewards Master and I are. We're like on the sliding scale of I just want travel to be free and I want as much points per cent as possible. It's like He's here, I'm here. I'm not sure why I crossed my fingers. And I don't know which end is which, but we're polar opposite ends of the spectrum, which is what makes it fun, quite honestly. Yuri G said they said they'll introduce transfer partners. Okay. We're gonna let that go. You guys can talk to each other. Blah blah blah. US Bank Altitude Connect is a great card. They give you 4 party passes. I agree with that. I think if they will let me, if I don't like the transfer partners, my Altitude Reserve will become an Altitude Connect just for the 4 party passes. Global entry, TSA pre-check, 4% on travel, and also Gig Sky. Gig Sky is like an overseas virtual SIM card. Is that right? And I would actually use that once in a blue moon. QC Man says, if one of your sons becomes an Iowa fan, that's the Hawkeyes, the other in-state rival, do they have to find their own airfare and hotel on family trips? That is correct. Yes, that is exactly how it works. The only exception would be like if one of my kids gets a full ride scholarship to the University of Iowa, but not Iowa State, for some reason, whether it's sports or academics or whatever. I suppose the frugal part of me versus the sports fan part of me would win, and then I would reluctantly root for a few Hawkeye things. Mike says to Mr. Muntz, way to go. Thanks for the support of the Dugroz channel. I agree. Thank you both, Mike and Mr. Muntz. All right, we're going to talk about not this little argument here, argument or lively discussion. Mr. Muntz, awesome gesture. And Party Pass Restaurants is great. Thanks, Allie. What is Taco John's? Taco John's is a regional competitor to Taco Bell. I think they're better, but they're also a little more expensive. If you go back and watch my April Fool's Day video where I said I was going to transition my channel to nothing but Dugroz Eats, it's one of the featured restaurants there. Mike from LA says community best served by combining the knowledge of both ends of the points and miles spectrum. I agree with that 112%. Yuri, neither my socks nor my Aunt Connie socks are being knocked off with 4 party passes. The restaurants are helpful, though, for no annual fee. You and Rewards Master should collab on a live. We collabed on a non-live once. It's on his channel. Go watch it. And not a terrible idea. Let's see. Some more stuff we're flying through. Okay. I need to resume the theme of the day here. So back to that. I might chop this up into a non-live video. Hey, we got 81 people on board. We're almost 85. So back at it. Oops, sorry, folks. Snorted on camera. 5, 4, 3. Oops. 5, 4, 3. All right, so this annual budget has me yielding the following. It would yield $700.50. Nope. $750 of cash back every year. It would yield 32,000 Wyndham points every year. And I'll come back to what I value that at a little later. And then it would also have me yielding 79,000 Citi points. And we do need to get into something of a discussion of what that yields me, which will be next. But I like it. That's it. Simple. This is a simple strategy. I only have 3 currencies, cashback, Wyndham, and Citi. And even Wyndham is nothing but gas stations. So I use it one use case. It's not as simple as a one-card strategy, but it's pretty simple. What do I think 79,000 Citi points are worth? Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen. Over here, we have this. 2.5 cents per point is my personal valuation for American Airlines, preferred hotels, and 1 to 2 choice. Now, I value choice hotels at 1.25, so since it's 1 to 2, you double that, and that's how I get 2.5. I did a very small breakdown. I got 3 cents per point on the thank you point side when I went to the Salamander Resort a little over a year ago, and that was a preferred hotel. And then I did a random example in, I think it was Montana or Wyoming, and got close to 3 cents per point, maybe even 4 or 5. So I think 2.5 is a pretty conservative valuation for preferred hotels. If you cherry pick at least a little. And then American Airlines, I did a whole breakdown on them. It was called, is Citi actually good now? Or is the Citi Strata Premier actually good now? where with a little cherry picking and some not cherry picking kind of merged together, 2.5 was a conservative average. It was actually over 3. But again, this is cherry picking. I admit that, but it's not over the top cherry picking. I can personally value those 3 transfer partners at 2.5. And I think if I dedicated myself to Citi for every spend, those would be the 3 I would use the most by far. So I think it's fair to go with that. But of course, you should always do your own math, do your own research on what you think your points are worth. And you should do the same thing I do. Do 7, 8, 10, 12 examples and see what it comes out to. Let's say half of that is cashed out and half is transferred. That averages out to 1.75 cents per point. In my PATH program, which is a program that I've been working through, or a methodology for determining what my everyday spend should be, I've identified I do need a fair amount of cash. So I'm going to be even more conservative on my valuation here. Take my cherry-picked average and cut it in half. That way, if I, well, not cut it in half, but take an average of 2.5 and 1 and average those out. And I'm going to use 1.75. That way, A, I'm being more conservative, and B, I can justify in my mind taking penny points from time to time. As long as I maintain a double cash and or a custom cash, I should be able to cash out my Citi points without taking a haircut. If you only have the Strata Premier, then you do take a haircut. Now, putting that together, 79,000 Citi points times 1.75 cents per point comes out to $1,382 a year. So that is the return on spend or cashback equivalent, whatever terminology you prefer to use, as it relates to those 79,000 Citi points that I would earn every year in my hypothetical budget. I need to subtract out the $95 annual fee on the CSP to account for that. And then on a net basis, that comes out to $1,287 of net value. So now we know what my Citi points are worth in my valuation scheme. With all that in mind, my earnings setup would look like this in the hypothetical world that I'm working my way towards. And I'm basing that on my 4 goals: Hilton's, non-chain lodging, rental cars, and flexible domestic flights. For Hilton's, non-chain lodging, some, and rental cars, some, I need cash. And then Citi points will come into play for some non-chain lodging, like preferred hotels, the times where I don't stay in Hilton's and want to go to Choice Hotel. And then American Airlines would be part of number 4, flexible domestic flights. Probably the Capital One portal will come into play a fair bit, which will earn me 10% or 10x on those bookings, which I have to pay for with cash. So there's going to be kind of a circular thing going with Capital One. 2 things I need to point out here. Number 4 says flexible domestic flights. I have not done my full breakdown episode yet of my 4th PATH goal of the year. These are my 4 goals for the year and next year and the year after that. So the remainder of 25, 26, 27, these are the 4 things I want to focus on for my points and miles usage. Since I haven't done the full breakdown, I can't guarantee this is where I'm going to end up, but I think I'm heading down a path to being pretty heavy on Citi. The reason why the 2 Capital One cards in the bottom right are littler is because they aren't a part of my everyday spend. They would be the cards that I use while traveling or while booking travel. So like if I go hang out in Sweden with Source King, I would use the Saver for any sort of dining or groceries, and then the Venture X for everything else. Make it a sense? Make it a sense. So I would have the 2 little cards at the bottom, but these 7 cards are the ones that would be used for most everyday spend. To be a little more specific, my actual wallet, like what's in my wallet physically, would look like this, because if we go back to the prior screen, these middle 3 cards are cards that just stay in the at-home wallet or sock drawer or safe. Purchases go on them, but they aren't actually out in the real world. The business cash gets all my cell phone bills, cable bills. The Cash Plus would get my gym memberships and utilities. I didn't factor in gym memberships because it's such a minor part of the budget. I just lumped it in with everything else. But those 2 categories are the ones I always pick, especially utilities. And then the Prime Visa, which would belong to my wife, would just sit in a drawer and pay for anything related to Amazon. So this is what my actual wallet I carry around would look like. I would have the Strata Premier for groceries only, pretty much, because the Wyndham card would take gas and the PayPal debit would take dining, and then the double cash would take everything else, actually walking around in the real world. I would point out, although I didn't actually factor it into my calculations because it probably isn't a huge deal, what I would do in this scenario is give player 2 a double cash and a Strata Premier, and I would just say, all right, honey, here's what we're going to do. If it's a grocery store, like a real grocery store, like Hy-Vee, use your Strata Premier. If you're getting food, if you're getting gas, put it on that. I generally fill up all of our cars with gas on the weekend, so she doesn't have to. So very little of our gas spend will go on the Strata Premier, but if she's out and about and needs to top off with 3 or 4 gallons, Strata Premier is not too bad of a choice. Likewise, we do most of our grocery shopping at Walmart, but if she swings by Hy-Vee or Aldi and picks up $30 worth of stuff, just put it on the Strata Premier and we say we are good. Catching up with some comments at this time as necessary. Oh boy. Oh boy. Where were we? What was Taco John's? Okay. Yep. Rewards Master is good with a live tier. That would be fun, and I agree. Here we go with new again, talking to Yuri. QC Man asked this: do you see yourself actually staying at Wyndham, not just using for Vacasa? Occasionally, very rarely. I've only stayed at a Wyndham property twice, like a real Wyndham, since I got into the points and miles game. Once was a Days Inn right on the UP of Michigan and Wisconsin border when my Vacasa cabin lost electricity. That was kind of an emergency scenario, but I had the points, so it was nice to use them. And then at the St. Louis airport, once just for like I fly in at 11 p.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. kind of thing. I stayed overnight at I don't even remember. I think it was a La Quinta, but don't quote me on that. Might have been a Wingate by Wyndham. And it was good enough. It was kind of go in, turn off the lights, and go to sleep. That's all it was. So yeah, occasionally, but it wouldn't be a part of my strategy. Rewards Match says 79,000 Citi points is worth 4,700 to me for BC. I got to think about BC. British Columbia. No. Business class. There we go. QC's like, BC. Yuri G mostly uses thank you points for preferred hotels. It's looking good, isn't it, Yuri? It's easier to book now, less likely to have problems. Correct me if I'm wrong. Business class. Yep. Yep. You see, I thought it was an acronym I was unfamiliar with. JC says Amex, Chase City are all I need. Capital One don't want me. Haha. I can get a Capital One Saver for Good credit, which is basically the same as a Saver without a sign-up bonus. And I probably will at some point, even though I kind of don't want to. They've got a new Saver One, which is basically Saver One for terrible credit, where it's the exact same thing, but you don't get a sign-up bonus. They charge you $39 a year. Some more comments here. QC Man says, I really hope PayPal doesn't nerf the debit card anytime soon, but it seems inevitable. Great value, especially for groceries at Costco. I agree with that. Mr. Munt says, I didn't get my 1,000 Dugroz points for my 149 hot dog with sauerkraut. Oh, I'm so sorry. I missed that. Let me go back. I did miss it. My bad. Here it is right there. Thank you for reminding me. Celebrate. Thank you, Mr. Muntz. $1.49. Nailed it. Here is your 1,000 Dugroz points. Be careful. Don't spend them all in one place if you can help it. And New Again says, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yuri G says, preferred hotels have some great properties. So far, I used them at CDMX and Medellin. Both were great. Awesome. Glad to hear it. We're down to 68 people, so I better get back into the main event here. I've got right at a half hour. Let's move this thing along here. What would happen if I replace Citi with Fairwinds? There it is, the Fairwinds Credit Union Visa signature card. Some of you might be asking yourself this question. What is Fairwinds Credit Union? Well, we know it's based in the state of Florida. If I'm not mistaken, it's in the greater Orlando area. Maybe Chad Pennycuff can give me a confirmation on that one. It earns as follows: 5x on theme parks and travel, 3x on dining, and 2x on everything else. Now, it's that last point that is especially interesting, the 2x on everything else. There's not a lot of cards that have 2x on everything else that are also like your kind of do everything card. Not that this does everything, but it does enough. And there are some interesting redemption options, which we'll get into on the next screen. A little later, it has a $95 annual fee, also, which you would want to take into consideration. From what I've heard from other people, you don't have to live in Florida to get this card. You just have to make like a one-time $5 donation to some charity that they sponsor, and you're in. Fairwinds is going to be purple here for the rest of our presentation today. And here's what we would need to think about. If I did replace Citi with Fairwinds, instead of having a double cash and a Citi Strata Premier, let's say I just went with the Fairwinds card. If you wonder why I'm doing this, it's because it's always good to evaluate alternatives. So my Walmart at $10,000 would be replaced by the Fairwinds at 2x. That's 20,000 Fairwinds. My legit grocery spend, not Walmart, would be 2x also, 6,000 at Fairwinds. Everything else remains the same at 2x, but it's 50,000 Fairwinds instead of 50,000 Citi points. Now, they would not pick up my dining, even though you get 3x on dining, because I would value 5% cash back more than 3x on Fairwinds, and you'll figure out why in just a moment when I get to the redemption section. Everything else stays the same, and this is still my $57,000 annual budget. This would have me yielding the following. I would yield still 750 of cash back, still 32,000 Wyndham points, but now I would be getting 76,000 Fairwinds points, which is just a hair less than I got on Citi, because on Citi, that 3x on grocery instead of 2x Fairwinds, so it's 3,000 points less. It's still simple. In fact, it's even a little more simple. I don't need a double cash. I don't need a Strata Premier. I take those two cards and just have one instead. So what would that look like? What are 76,000 Fairwinds points worth anyway? Well, I need to give a hat tip to Uncle Luke from Luke's Points and Miles. You'll see the picture in the bottom right-hand corner. He did a video that was about 5 months ago, roughly, where he wondered if Fairwinds was a CSR killer. Prescient. That was before all the changes to the CSR was announced, where the annual fee went up from $550 to $800. A lot of good info in that video, so I give him a hat tip for this. He based it partially on a mention that Matt Clausen did, so an indirect hat tip to Matt. I'll put a link to Luke's video if I remember after the video is no longer live. Hopefully I remember, and if I forget, by all means, speak up. Now, what Luke said is that it's advertised as 1.5 cents per point on travel, but he found it actually varies a lot from 1.1, 1.2 up to 1.5. But the use case that was especially compelling is that you can buy Delta, Southwest, or Airbnb gift cards at 1.45 cents per point through the Fairwinds redemption portal. And the great thing about that is once you have the gift card, you're booking directly with Delta, Southwest, or Airbnb. That would be especially compelling for me because I do fly Delta about a quarter of the time. Southwest, not as much, just every now and then. But Airbnb, I've been looking for a way to get outsized value on Airbnb, and that could be it. It could be an option. So I'm going to think this through a little bit more. There are portals like the CSR has, but most of the direct portal flights were less than 1.45. So we're going to stick with this example. If we do use that 1.45, then the 76,000 Fairwinds points comes out to a cashback equivalent of $1,102. I do need to subtract out the $95 annual fee, and that nets $1,007 in value. So let's remember what we were trying to compare here. We were saying, what if I replace Citi with Fairwinds? This is sort of like a mini topic, won't take as long as usual, but we're getting to our resolution here. pretty soon. And here's the score. If you forgot, the champion Citi came in with $1,287 in cashback equivalent, and the challenger Fairwinds came out with $1,007. So while it was fairly close, Citi was the greater of the two, winning by $280, winning by about 20%. So dun 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 dun. Citi is the winner. Now we're going to talk about this. We're going to break it down a little more, but let me catch up on comments here. We talked about that. We talked about that. Yuri says preferred hotels rival Hyatt for me in value proposition. That's good. That's reinforcing my thought that I could probably average at least 2.5 cents per point at Citi if I use it for preferred, since it transfers 1 to 4 on over there. Tiger Maple's on board. Good morning. Chad Pennycuff says the credit union, the Fairwinds credit union, is 100% Orlando based. I thought you would be a good data point on that. QC Man asks if they have any foreign transactions fee, and Chad says they do not. Do you have the card, Chad? And if so, what do you think of it? Tiger says, will you be going for any of the Atmos cards? I haven't decided yet. Probably not, because the use case is just a touch too narrow for me. I've never flown Alaska Airlines directly. I've only used their transfer partners, but I could be persuaded otherwise if somebody who knows me well enough to know my travel style can tell me of a good use case. QC Man said, I should have planned my European trip to go to Ireland for Farmageddon. Well, this coming Monday is the first day of school for my kids and my wife. So that is a big no-no for family travel. As it relates to me going personally, this is maybe not the case now, but up until about 2 months ago, Iowa State was only selling package deals. So you had to get their airfare, lodging, and tickets through them. So I didn't have the ability to use my own points and miles. So I'm not going to do that, of course. I think about 6 weeks to go, they opened it to ticket only sales. But by then, all the juicy stuff was unavailable. And it didn't fit my lifestyle, frankly. But if it had been late October, I probably would have done it. Chad says, I've considered it for 5X on themes parks. I spend thousands on parks a year. I imagine you do. And Juan Garcia says, good morning, late but here. Chad says, I have a $95 saver with 4X on entertainment. That cleans up. This quarter chases 5X on live entertainment theme parks count. So I paid off my monthly payment plan on the CFF for 5X Chase, which counts, triggers. I'm assuming you mean your Disney condos, timeshares counted as entertainment, which is really, really awesome. All right, I'm going to keep going on the theme of the day here. Big and eyes. So yes, we said the winner was Citi. 5, 4, 3. I don't like being locked into Delta or Southwest flights as well. I would rather have more options. Now, I realize somebody could say, well, Doug, aren't you being kind of hypocritical? With the Citi setup, you're locked into American Airlines. And that's true. And while I have to be a free agent, a plurality of my travel is American, just because here in Des Moines, Iowa, that's where they fly to. So I fly to Dallas, Charlotte, LaGuardia, Phoenix, all on American. So American gets about 40, 45, maybe bumping up against 50% of my flights. Southwest is maybe only 10%. Delta's around 20, 25%. So if I'm going to be locked into one of those, it's better to be locked into American, I guess you'd say. Let's move along. However, I do acknowledge that the Fairwinds Credit Union Visa signature would be a terrific one-card solution for the intermittent traveler like myself, someone who travels in that 3 to 7 times per year range. And if it's somebody who's like, man, I just want a one-card solution. In fact, if I found a clone of myself who went to visit presidential graves, lived in a non-hub airport, liked going to waterfalls in West Virginia, liked going to Pensacola, Florida, and riding boats to see Civil War forts, and they're like, Doug, what's a one-stop card I can get? I think I actually would recommend this one. That's a pretty small niche, because that's not a beginner who doesn't travel at all. Like a young man at church asked me a couple weeks ago, I want to take my first vacation with my wife, not a newlywed, but a guy who's been married 3 or 4 years. I want to take my first big vacation with my wife in about 3 years. What would be a good starting point? I don't think for him this is a good starting point because he didn't really want to get into points and miles. He just wants to get enough to make like a trip to Washington, D.C. happen. But if it was someone who did the same thing I did, I think this would be a good one-stop solution. Let's revisit the totals with the cashback equivalent mixed in there. Some people say return on spend. Some people say cashback equivalent. I think only I say cashback equivalent, but that's what CBE stands for, if you're wondering. Let's revisit now that we have officially crowned Citi as the Mike Tyson of my setup. Cashback is still $750. Wyndham points, I said 32,000, but I didn't give a value. I conservatively value Wyndham at 1.25 cents per point because I use Vacasa. So that comes out to $400. I'm still in the back of my mind considering like a end of fun activity for like October with Vacasa, but I just don't know if I can pull it off. I'd have to find something where I can work remotely at least 1 or 2 days. I do feel like you're going to have better success working remotely from a vacation rental than from a hotel, just based on internet desks, those kind of things, at least low-end hotels. Citi, 79,000 points at 1.75 cents per point, which is what I determined earlier, 1,287. That is $2,437 overall in cashback equivalent for my everyday spend, not counting sign-up bonuses. And yes, that is net after the annual fee. That's not too shabby considering this only uses a $95 annual fee. But let's look at this in a little more detail. Average return on spend is about 4.27% based on a $57,000 budget. I feel like 4.27% is respectable. Now I say about because, again, things like gym memberships I just lumped in with everything else. If I use even a small amount of discretion, it'll be more than 4.27%. But I think that's not too bad for everyday spend. I'm actually slightly tempted to take the entire year of 2026 and not do any sign-up bonuses unless it's based on one-time things like paying college tuition or something like that, and just running everything through this setup to see what happens. By the way, if anybody has any good suggestions for working remotely while on vacation, vacation rental versus hotel, let me know. So let's take a look at the whole setup with everything I've said today in mind here. And this is what my, crud, I left a bunch of notes downstairs on the piano. We're going to do a super short intermission here while I go get that. So everybody stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to go get that and come right back. See, I made all these handwritten notes about what changes in my credit card setup, and that would be all screwed up if I didn't do that. All right. That's exactly right. It is Spanish Flea. All right. Here we are. Okay, so this picture on the screen right now is not my current credit card setup because there's some changes to go. But this is where I would like to be by, now I'm out of breath, by no later than the middle of 2026. So by no later than, let's say, this time next year. Asthma break. Here's what's different than reality. So in this hypothetical, player 2 is going to add a Wells Fargo autograph right here because I've got some non-points rewards trapped at her side. So to get that over to my side, she has to have an autograph or autograph journey, one of the two. So let's just say we have her pick up an autograph sometime later this year, early next year. Her one key credit card is going to product change to a Wells Fargo Attune. Now, I don't know if that's possible or not. I'm hoping it is. If not, 2 applications at Wells Fargo in 1 year may or may not happen. The U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve disappears and turns into a Connect in this hypothetical by no later than middle of next year, if they let me. My Strata, which I have right now, it used to be a Rewards Plus, changes into the Strata Premier. That hasn't happened yet, but all it takes is a phone call. And then I would add a Capital One Saver. I have that Venture One that I opened 3 or 4 years ago when I first got my Venture X that they won't let me product change, so I'd have to just outright apply and forego the sign-up bonus, it looks like. But let's just say I have this set up in place. I've canceled a few cards that are just completely unnecessary. I have this in place by the middle of 2026, let's say. And that's 27 credit cards, if you're wondering. Well, I got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to probably skip a lot of comments and just push ahead here, but I'll try to get to some, time permitting. Now, this setup I call is 25 cards. I call it the square. I realize it's more of a rectangle, but 5 across by 5 up and down. 25 cards, very easy to manage. I like this setup. So let's just say after I get past middle of 2025, I want to kind of move into what I've talked about, my new setup, my new wallet on a semi-permanent basis. This is what it would look like. So I lost the the US Bank Connect card because I just decided, you know what, doesn't offer enough value for me. So that's gone, leaving the Cash Plus as my only US Bank card. I've lost both Aeroplan cards issued by Chase. And the rationale there is, you know how much I love doing 1.25 cents per point. But if the ink train is dead and the ability to do new sign-up bonuses on Chase is going to be severely nerfed, I just don't know if I can generate enough points with Chase to justify keeping Aeroplans on board. So I think those Aeroplans are going to go away by probably 2027 or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see. I had an Ink Unlimited. It's gone because I never use it. 1.5 Chase, and not that appealing. Added an Amazon Prime, probably player 2 down here in the bottom left. And I added the Citi Double Cash, which I'll need. Whether that comes through the backdoor Barclays Aviator Red channel or just an application, doesn't really matter. But by 2027, let's say I get everything turned into the square. I tell you, 25 cards looks really nice. Oh, I forgot to mention on the last screen, I also have signed up for a Bonvoy Boundless at some point, which I hope to do within 2 months. And then by 2027, that has turned into a Ritz-Carlton card. So that's how we get to the 25 square, the square. And then where things go from there, I call this ultra lean, and it's only 16 cards. It's also a square. It's 4 by 4. This is more of a hypothetical that I don't think will ever happen, but let's just say I want to get really lean and really mean. This is what it would look like. So you'll notice I lost almost everything with Amex. I had a Blue Cash every day, 2 Blue Business Plus cards. Now that would be hard to let go because I use $7 a month of the Hulu Disney Plus bundle credit on the Blue Cash every day. But if I really wanted to go lean, I could get rid of almost everything from Amex because I only earn Amex points on sign-up bonuses or 0% offers for the most part. I really don't use them for everyday spend at all without changing behavior. So the only thing left is my Hilton card, which I would only use when I stay at Hilton's. I wouldn't get a lot of use. So Amex is almost completely gone. No MR earnings, no Blue Cash every day. I lost all 5 Wells Fargo cards because while I like Wells Fargo, if I'm leaning heavy into Citi, there's really not a lot they offer I can't get elsewhere. I could argue a tune versus Amazon for Amazon Prime for payment on Amazon. Probably a little too complicated for earning, 16,000 points per year on a tune. So yeah, all 5 Wells Fargo cards are just gone if I want to go ultra lean. So I've cut out Wells Fargo as an issuer and their points completely. I've cut out Amex MR completely, and I'm now down to just 3 point earning currencies, that being Citi, Capital One, and Chase. Well, but not even really Chase, because you've noticed The Chase Sapphire Preferred or Reserve, neither one exists anymore. Now I'm just using Chase as a cash back setup. I've got my 2 Freedom Flexes, our 2 Freedoms, and then the Ink Cash for telecom. Technically, Amazon's a Chase card too, but not transferring to UR points at all. Now, admittedly, that would make it hard because I wouldn't have Hyatts, but in this world, that would be the only thing I would ever use Chase for. So is it worth paying a $95 fee every year just for the privilege of transferring to Hyatts? I don't know. Depends on who you ask, but I could if I wanted to go ultra lean and have this set up. Here's what it would look like in terms of annual fees if I did this ultra lean setup. I would pay $95 a year for the Chase or the Citi row, the Strata Premier being the only card that has an annual fee in that row. In the second row, $395, which would be the Capital One Venture X, which with truckloads of caveats pretty much pays for itself. In the next row, the only annual fee I have is Ritz-Carlton, which is just for like booking flights to get the insurance and stuff, using the free night certificate once a year, using a free airline incidental thing now and then. And that should also pay for itself, or at least half of itself, I think, reasonably. And then the last row, $245, which is $150 on the Hilton Honors and $95 on the Wyndham card. And I feel like those both are easily justified and pretty much pay for themselves. So that would have me paying $1,185 in annual fees, which isn't too bad. My goal is to keep it under $2,000. So if that were to happen, I'm definitely under $2,000. Woo! What do you guys think? That's the end of the theme of the day, and I've got 4 minutes left. I sincerely apologize. We aren't going to have time to get into the community tab questions, but I will hit a few questions right here real quick here. Chad Pennycuff talking about how to earn with a hypothetical on the Fairwinds card. Annual passes. Okay. I looked at Fairwinds but couldn't really get straight answers on redemption rates. Yeah, you would almost have to get it to see what it's like. Wells Fargo, a tune is 4X on entertainment, says Yuri. Yep, my hold music was Spanish Flea. Good job, QC, man. 200 Dugroz points for you. We talked about that a little bit already. Chris Sevy says, working remotely, get a travel laptop stand and pack a keyboard and mouse. Good suggestions. QC Man says, as long as the Golden Ponies is included, Filmo is fine with whatever setup you have. Okay, don't let Filmo know about this picture that's on the screen right now. Doug's schedule is tight because of the Iowa State game. That's exactly right. I may need a second aeroplan, says Yuri. JP says, has Dugroz ever had a boxing match, even a friendly one, going off the thumbnail? Well, the thumbnail was AI generated. I did box a roommate in college once just for fun, like in the dorms, not even in a ring or anything. And we weren't allowed to take headshots. It was only body shots. And I ended up hurting my shoulder. So that was my one boxing match I've ever had. Yuri says, you need to pay for Prime with a tune. You don't have to pay for Prime. Well, we have Prime anyway. Cesar likes my strong ultra lean strategy. Yeah, trimming the fat there. Chad says, I'd love to cut Amex, but having a place in Detroit, I'm bound for Delta. I get that. Cesar said, I would cut the one US Bank and the one Barclays to make it 14 plus Amex intro offers. Yeah, I don't think I could cut out Barclays because I love my Wyndham Vacasa trick too much. Would there be a reasonable replacement for utilities on one of the other issuers that I already have? Chase, Citi, Capital One, or Amex? I still need a UR transfer card. Yep, we talked about that. I would be giving up on UR transfers in this hypothetical scenario. The picture of the day was from this picture right here. And if you're wondering, that's me visiting the grave of Chester A. Arthur in Albany, New York. Several people guessed it correctly. I'm not going to get to the questions, but I will give credit where credit is due to the people who guessed it correctly. Solid Liquid Fox guessed the grave of Bruce Wayne's parents, Gotham Cemetery. You get 500 Dugroz points for that answer. Solid Liquid Fox. That's pretty good. Let's see. Dad on a Mission correctly guessed Albany Rural Cemetery, grave of Chester A. Arthur. Fog Runner correctly guessed Chester A. Arthur, who was 21st president, came to the office when Garfield was assassinated. Ron Byrne guessed Chester A. Arthur's grave. So all 1, 2, 3 of you who guessed the grave of Chester A. Arthur correctly each get 1,000 Dugroz points. Fog Runner, or excuse me, Solid Liquid Fox, you get 500 for the funny joke about the Gotham Cemetery and Bruce Wayne's parents. Ron also asked me to predict the score of the Iowa State game, and I would guess it will be something like Iowa State 27, Kansas State 30. Yes, unfortunately, it saddens me to say this, but I think Iowa State will lose simply because under Coach Matt Campbell, Iowa State historically does not do well in early season games. For some reason, it seems like they are very slow starters. So I just don't think we're probably going to win today. And if we do, I'll consider it to be a pleasant surprise. I do agree that Chet Arthur had the best sideburns of any president. Wyndham is 5x on utilities. That's a good point, Yuri. So I could just take 5 Wyndham points instead of 5% cash back. Actually, that makes a ton of sense. What am I thinking? Thanks, Yuri. I really appreciate it. So I don't even need the cash plus. All right, but I do like the idea of having a square. That appeals to me for some unknown reason. We'll end it right there. As always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Go Cyclones. Bye, everyone.